Amen. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Ori. I sense a theme today. I sense a theme coming on. That blueprint for living, that's the light within you. Traditionally, in Christianity, they said that light belonged to Jesus and that you needed to accept him into your life and all of these interesting ways of looking at how that Christ light got inside. But the fundamental agreement that I have with that is that the Christ light gets inside, is inside, and has to come out for me to experience that. That there is a blueprint for my living a spiritual life. That blueprint is inside of me. It's encoded in the cells and the molecules and the atoms and everything that we are. From all of creation, the 15 billion years that we know about the known universe, all of that exists within me, within my consciousness, all of it. I mean, creation's beyond our imagination. It's all within you. Even the physical being that you think you are is made up of stardust. We all started out in the universe and have come together in this divine configuration of light and energy and substance that makes up who we are. That's why I always say you are a unique expression of the divine. It's really true. And my only question today is, are you living your most expanded, most fulfilled, most magnificent life available to you? Are you living life to the fullest? The most joyful, expanded expression of yourself? If not, what are you waiting for? There's a real good recipe for this, and I'm going to try to give it to you today. And it's a recipe for spiritual success, and it's called the inclusion of others. I really subscribe to the notion that the more we include others, the greater our prosperity is. Including others is the key to greater prosperity. The more we can include others in our joy and happiness, the more abundant we will become. And if abundance and prosperity can be measured in terms of how much we can give, which is what we talked about last week, then an ancient truth can be realized in us. And that ancient truth is this: that success is not measured by what we can achieve in material wealth, but in terms of joy and happiness. Does anyone here believe that? Like I do? Yes? Yes? Abundance is measured in joy and happiness. The thing that has happened is that we think we need the money, we need the things, we need the stuff, we need the power, whatever we think we need in order to make that joy and happiness happen. And we forget that the universe has given us all the joy and happiness already. There are people who are happy just being with their family in a small little cardboard hut because they have their loved ones around them. There are people who are happy with very, very little material things. And there are people with a lot of material things, of billions of dollars, that are not happy. So happiness, success, can only be measured in happiness. Success can only be measured in terms of joy, in terms of how you make others feel. I think it was Maya Angelou who said, it doesn't matter what you say, what you do, people aren't going to remember what you said or even how you said it, but they're going to remember how you made them feel. You carry an energetic vibration with you. And how you make people feel is what I feel, that's how you can measure what you're giving. It's how many lives are impacted by your being here. So today we're going to review a little bit of the 4 spiritual laws of prosperity. Because the first one, of course, is forgiveness. If I want to impact others' lives, I must include them in my life. you're not going to be able to follow your divine purpose if you're holding on to grievances and resentments. Forgiveness is going to open the door to greater inclusion. And the next one is setting goals. You can't get somewhere if you don't know where you're going. If you don't have a map, if you don't punch in the coordinates on the GPS, you're not going to get to the place you want to be. You'll always be, what does that GPS tell me when recalculating? I'm always going to be recalculating my life. I'm always going to be wondering, where the heck am I and where the heck am I going and how can I get there? And I'm always going to come up with ways to get somewhere I don't want to be. Has anybody ever ended up somewhere they don't want to be? And you wonder, how the heck did I get here? How is this happening? How is this happening again? That's what most of you say, right? How is this happening again? So, from our little book from Edwene Gaines, thank you, Edwene, for this book, The 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity. We're on number 4, finding and following our divine purpose. Finding and following your divine purpose is a way of declaring that your life has significance. Your life does have meaning. It has purpose that you find. It has meaning and importance. Then you can live with joy and strength and bring passion to all that you do. In order to fulfill our divine purpose, we have to set some goals in accordance with that purpose. We could say, well, I'd really like to get to a Red Sox game next summer, but if I never go and buy a ticket, I'm not going to get in the door. I could drive to Fenway Park, but I forgot to buy the ticket. And it's the same in all the things in your life. If you feel like, oh, I want to achieve greater success, and I never take the steps to do it, I can't then complain that it's not happening. I have to take the steps. So one of the biggest steps is trusting God, is tithing. Tithing is giving, now this is very specific. It's a very specific way to free yourself from the bondage of your limiting thoughts, your limited patterns of behavior, is to give to that source of your spiritual sustenance, your spiritual nourishment. Because if you want to grow spiritually, you have to plant seeds where they're going to grow. So we give 10% of any income that we receive to the source of our spiritual nourishment, where I'm really fed. Now, where does this come from? This comes from the idea of cooperation in the Old Testament, in Malachi 3:10, bringing the whole tithe, the whole 10%, into the storehouse. What they used to do was bring 10% of the harvest into the storehouse so they had plenty in the storehouse for the times where the crops didn't do so good. And so there was always enough for everyone because everyone brought the whole 10% into the storehouse. And he says, test me in this, and see if I will not throw open the gates, the floodgates of heaven, which just happened to some of you in a different way. We're talking about spiritual substance. I will throw open the gates of heaven and pour out so much of a blessing there will not be room enough to store it. And I really feel that's been the experience of my life, is that every time that I've consistently tithed to the source of my spiritual nourishment, I've received more than I could possibly receive. I had to adjust my life to receive it. Make my ideas bigger. Make my plans bigger. Make room for God in your plans. Your plans are too small. They don't include a huge blessing. Make room for the unexpected and the unpredictable. Make room for something that you say, wow, how could that possibly happen? It could happen because the universe is always blessing you. You're holding on to a very small idea of yourself and what you are worthy of. But the universe wants to give you more, always. Always. It's a time of evolution. When I was in my office, Spirit said, grab those other 2 books that you weren't planning to read today, because it is a spiritual evolution. And I have to just give you everything. I'm not going to be here next week, so I have to put two weeks worth of message into 1 week. But listen, we're evolving spiritually, right? It's Eckhart Tolle. And the most amazing thing is that we are at a point in human existence where we're going to have to evolve, or this planet might not be habitable for human existence. So we're going to have to evolve to a new way of looking at ourselves as spiritual beings. Eckhart Tolle wrote this book several years ago. It's called A New Earth. And he says in it, a significant portion of the Earth's population will soon recognize, if they haven't already done so, that humanity is faced with a stark choice: evolve or die. A still relatively small but rapidly growing percentage of humanity is already experiencing within themselves the breakup of the old egoic mind patterns and the emergence of new dimensions of consciousness. I know many of you are experiencing those new dimensions of consciousness. It's not crazy, it's not weird, it's not unusual, because many people throughout the ages have experienced new dimensions, different dimensions of consciousness, of awareness, God awareness, awareness of spirit, awareness that we are part of that spirit. I think it was Martin Luther King who said our technology has surpassed our humanity. That we have guided missiles, but we have misguided men. And spiritual evolution is going to guide you so that we are guided by spirit, that we are guided by love, that we're guided by compassion, and not the egoic mind patterns that keep destroying the fabric of our humanity, the fabric of our togetherness as human family, because we're all connected to one another. So I think it's very important, for me at least, I don't know about anyone else, but this works for me, to give a portion back to where I receive my spiritual nourishment. Because then I can get on with my divine purpose. I'm feeding my purpose. I'm feeding my divine purpose. Finding and following your divine purpose, that's the law of prosperity that makes it all work. It gives your life purpose and meaning. It gives the eternal divine substance a vehicle for expression. I want to have God use me. I want to be a vehicle for the expression of the eternal divine substance. And in order to do that, I might need a little purification. I might need a little letting go of that which doesn't serve me. And that, to Charles Fillmore, is the purpose of Lent. This is the Lenten season. And we celebrate in the Lenten season this journey of man separate to man resurrected, to man whole, to man, a man who made a journey, who was a human being, but made a journey in his consciousness to the absolute certainty that he was God. And not the only expression of God, because that's never what he meant to teach. But he meant to show you the possibility of what you can be and what you already are. So Charles Fillmore says about Lent that Lent is a season of spiritual growth. It is a time for a progressive unfoldment when we can blend and merge our mind with the mind of God. The way is open for the Lord to glorify us, to lift us up into a higher, purer, more spiritual state. And I love it because he says it's a progressive unfoldment. It's a blending of our mind with the mind of God. It's an absolute acknowledgement of our spiritual nature. Our way shower also has said this in John 10. He said, I have come that you may have life and you may have it more abundantly. Life. That's the substance. Abundant life. This is the guy, I couldn't remember who it was last week. Robert Schuller is the one who said this. He said, the secret to success is to find a need and fill it. To find a hurt and heal it. To find somebody with a problem and help to solve it. That's the secret to success. And that's the secret of happiness, is inclusion. Find a need and fill it. Find a hurt and heal it. Find a problem and solve it. Thank you, Robert. And this is my favorite person these days who has found the divine purpose and is following it. L.R. Nost. And she says, do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break. All things can be mended, not with time, as they say, but with intention. Now go, love intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally. Why? Because the broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you. The broken world is waiting in darkness for the light that is you. This is L.R. Nost. A beautiful young lady who's on her divine purpose. When I first read that, I was like, that sounds like Rumi. I mean, that sounds like Lao Tzu. In Facebook, it probably is Rumi. But no, this is a contemporary sister of yours who's doing good work in the world and spiritual work, and she's doing it with children. She started something called Little Hearts Gentle Parenting Resources. She's written several books on gentle parenting, and her tagline is that, changing the world one little heart at a time. Isn't that beautiful? That's someone who has found and is following her divine purpose. You don't have to look out there to some master in India. You don't have to look out there to some great big guru or to some teacher or to anyone else except yourself. If you're looking to teachers, then join with them. Then see them as equals. If you're following Jesus Christ, see yourself as an equal with him. If you're following Buddha, see yourself as the Buddha nature within yourself, equal. If you're following anyone, see yourself as their equal. Take what they have to offer and see that wisdom as part of yourself. And I would suggest, as this happy person is doing, follow your divine purpose. Put it into practice. Ralph Waldo Emerson is one of the founders of the New Thought movement, who was a teacher of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. Grew up in New England Transcendentalists. They're the founders of our movement. He said the reason why the world lacks unity and lies broken in heaps is because human beings, are disunited within themselves. You're separate within yourself. You have conflict within yourself. You're not sure of who you are. And therefore, you're not sure of your divine purpose. How could you follow yourself? I'm going to answer your phone. Are you following your divine purpose? That's the big question. It's Sunday morning. Your friend Jack is the music director at Unity on Cape Cod, and he is following his divine purpose. Here he is.
He says he loves you.
So I'm not immune to what's happening in the world just because I'm on a spiritual path. I am more sensitive to what's happening in the world. I see what's happening in Syria today. I see what's happening in Venezuela. I see what's happening in Africa. I see what's happening in Sandwich. The roads are flooded. I see what's happening with the tornadoes and the climate change all over this world. I see what's happening in the denial of the human being to deny responsibility for his or her actions, or our actions collectively. And I see that as a broken world, but we don't need to go much further than what is happening right now in our country, in our community, and within ourselves to know where my attention and focus must be in order to heal that brokenness of the world. I won't be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. It can be united by being united within myself. A deep desire for spiritual growth is the onward impulse of our ever-evolving souls. That's Charles Fillmore. Our ever-evolving souls. I really feel that this is the moment where our evolution can take a giant leap. As they say, a quantum leap. I really, really feel it. It's happening, but you have to jump in and be part of it. I think I have one more. Back to this. I'm calling this person my new hero because it's starting at the very fundamental, most basic and most precious relationship we have, and that's our relationship with our children. When we see our children in schools being shot, being murdered, it causes something inside of me that wants to make a change, that wants to make a drastic change. And I know that drastic change has to first start with me. I can't run out into the world with a lot of grievance and a lot of resentment and try to change things with the same anger and with the same frustration and confusion that caused the thing that we're distressed about. I'm going to have to be in a very centered place in order to deal constructively with the problems that we need to change. Find a problem and solve it. I think there are abundance of problems that we can solve. But we need to be in a place where we can actually make a difference and actually solve them. No longer do you have to look to the Dalai Lama, to Jesus Christ, to Buddha, to Lao Tzu, to any of these people to try to save you from where you find yourself. You are the creation of God, so powerful and magnificent. I know that you can do it. You have to do it because it's your world. And I know you will do it. And I know that you may sometimes, like me, get dismayed by the brokenness of this world. But be not dismayed by the brokenness of this world. Remember that you are the light of this world. So be blessed, be a blessing. I love you guys. Thank you.
You have been watching the message from our Sunday celebration service here at Unity on Cape Cod, providing a positive path for spiritual living. Please join us every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. at 147 Walton Ave, Hyannis, Mass. And visit us online at www.unityoncapecod.org.